Well, here we are. Another week, another episode of Westworld. Um, I'm here joined by Spencer, and I'm Brian, as normal, on PulpMythos. What's up, dude?
How you doing?
How's it going? We are self-quarantining, so we are not in the same facility. We're doing this through the interwebs. So,
Well, thinking of that, like if any of the stuff about this is true, if I get it, I'm gonna die because they talk about like mostly males, type A positive blood, and I'm diabetic. So
yeah, it's grim, very grim, but true.
so I'm just gonna sit at the house.
Seriously.
I
It's
watched
funny.
Netflix earlier.
I had this episode. It's only been 1 week since the first episode, and no lie, I don't know if you felt the same way, but as I was watching the episode, it felt like it's been a month since the first episode. Like
Yes.
news is so fast and furious now. Obviously, anybody listening, you know what's going on in the world, and literally every hour on the hour there's breaking news, something crazy happening. Um, so I don't know. Days feel like weeks, weeks feel like months, and it legitimately felt like a month since the last episode.
Yes.
I was like, yeah,
And I only worked a couple days last week because I took time off, and even those couple days felt like an eternity. So like the whole week felt long. So
yeah.
waiting between episodes felt even longer. Ridiculous.
Um, as I said, we watched this in different places at different, well, basically around the same time. Um, I had enough time where I was able to go online and look up some reviews for this episode, and I was shocked. I'll be honest with you. They're very mixed. There were some people. Forbes had a very positive review. Den of Geek loved the episode. I think they gave it a perfect score. And then there were those, IGN being one, who did not like this episode.
Boo.
Yeah, gave it very low marks. I heard things like too much techno babble and retreading old tropes from the previous seasons, and I couldn't disagree more. I'm on the side of those who love the episode. As a matter of fact, I would give this episode, if I had to rank the first episode, I'd probably give it like a 7.5. This would be a 9 for me, at least. What do you think about that?
I I don't disagree. I think that the first episode I liked better than a 7 because building what was his name, Caleb, something with a C.
Yes, Caleb. Hmm.
He I felt like the first half of the first episode was really hard to kind of keep up with, but as it went on, I enjoyed it. Like it was very cool to kind of pull that all together. My only gripe with this episode isn't even really a gripe because I love the Matrix, but it felt like the Matrix.
Yeah.
So I don't think that that's a bad thing. But when they say tropes from earlier seasons, the earlier seasons to me didn't feel like the Matrix. This felt very much like having an out of body experience, realizing that even last season they started to realize that what they were, that they weren't really humans, that they were living the same lives over and over, groundhog daying it, and for them to kind of snap out of that. But for her to figure that shit out really felt like the Matrix. They were trying to get Neo to realize that he was stuck.
Yeah. I think also two characters that I love in this series is Bernard and Maeve. Maeve is
Yes.
possibly my favorite character in the series, arguably one of my favorite characters in fiction today. And so to have an episode revolving around those two characters as the mains, and specifically her being, in the A story, I loved it. um,
I think they've spent the first season, they barely touched on her. They kind of showed they were building her up to where she is, but you kind of felt like she was a side character, and she was. Season 2, she was a lot more prevalent, and then especially towards the end, she was the main focus there. But I think they were setting this up. At the end of this episode, uh, they show that she's basically in charge.
Yeah.
That she's the one. She is the one. She is the Neo, and she is trying to basically they're using her. And the guy from what was it? He's a director normally. The can't remember his name. The dude at the end, the one who was basically God.
Oh, the one that pulled her out of the machine.
Yeah,
He
he.
is. Hold on, I got it.
I don't remember.
Sarek.
Yes, I don't. The actor's name. He's,
That.
if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken, he's the one that directed like Black Swan.
Oh, is it? I need to look
Yeah,
that.
I
I
think
did
so.
not. I did not look that up. He within the show, he's the guy that created Insight, which is we learned about in the first episode. Basically, this where in Westworld they had the Forge, which was compiling data on all the guests and became basically an escape for the hosts. He created a similar thing, an AI, Insight, which is to compile all the data on humans living in the real world. We think the real world. A lot of theories out there that it's a simulation too, but clearly Dolores. You said Maeve was the Neo. Does that make Dolores Agent Smith? And I'm not even joking. Like
I
sort of the
I
dynamic of the
think
two
so.
characters.
Like when you look at what their roles are, I think that it is because she's not necessarily just she feels like she's right, but the way she's going about things is that humanity has been poisoned.
Yeah.
Humanity's bad. And Agent Smith, we've been feeding off you for all this time, and you become you know, a poison. You become, unworthy. And that's how Maeve feels.
The we're gonna move through there. So as I said earlier, there's basically an A and a B story. The A story was Maeve, the B Bernard. Starting off the episode, literally the first almost 10 minutes, maybe even 15, about 10 minutes before the credits even kicked in, we basically had almost an Indiana Jones type sequence where you have Maeve and Hector escaping Nazis. Beautifully shot. The location was amazing. The vehicles, I love the whole thing. I like the music. I like the way it was, the costume design. You had texted me while watching it. You're like, this would be a great show. Like, just the whole feel of it. It was, really. It reminded me a lot of Indiana Jones. Did you get any indie vibes, or what did you think?
I did. I not only just Indiana Jones, just that whole adventure
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
to it. So, the Goonies, like Indiana Jones, Star Wars, like it felt like an adventure.
Spielbergian
Yeah.
almost. Yeah.
So you had, you know, War World happening, but
I
I
like
love
that they named it because we were trying to figure out what is that world
yeah,
called,
we
and
didn't know.
yeah.
But they said at the little after credits thing it was shot in Spain. That they
Uh,
wanted it to feel like Italy and stuff, but they found a town that was basically stuck in time. It was super old, so they built a bunch of stuff, and they showed how they had the people basically frozen. They used like these. They look like poles, but they were like stands, so that they could basically lay on them, and then they like edited them out, and painted over it so that it still looks still. And they did like this slow motion, motion capture thing to get everybody still. And I was showing how that was done was really cool. I like the little after credit things.
yeah, so I watch it live on air, and they didn't have it. You watch it through the app, correct?
Yes.
And so yeah, you get the little was it like 5-10 minutes?
Yeah, it's normally like 5 minutes because each episode, the real time episode is like 50 minutes. And then they
Yeah.
always show like the little after credits preview for the next thing, the next episode. And then after that, they show kind of like a making of, like how they did each episode. And they showed a lot of things that I caught and I felt super smart for catching. And then they were like, yeah, we planted that there on purpose. I'm like, motherfuckers. Like all the Game of Thrones stuff that I thought was really cool.
Yeah,
The
oh, go ahead.
dragon was in there.
Yeah.
D&D was in there.
Yeah, we can jump into that right now. Yeah, there was the sequence where I saw it immediately when I saw when I saw D&D, I saw the creators of Game of Thrones, the series, and then the dragon, and then it was like Game of Thrones world basically, which was pretty
And that
cool.
was the thing. Like I thought it was just medieval world at first until I saw their faces when they walked by. Because I saw the dragon and I was just like, oh, okay, that's kind of just a nod to Game of Thrones. And then I saw them. And then the guy was playing the lute, and I'm like 95% sure I'm going to go back and watch it, but it sounded like Reigns of Castamere. So I'm going to have to go back and watch it to see, to confirm or deny that. And then at the end, when, Bernard was trying to leave the room or whatever, it showed like this costume, and it looked like one that Cersei wore. It had like the ruffles around it. It was like that dark peach color, I guess, a reddish peach. And it looked exactly like one of her outfits. And I was like, oh, damn. I thought it was really cool. And the after credits thing, they said that, they wanted, Jesus, I don't know why I'm stumbling, but they wanted to do like a crossover episode where they kind of, had a nod to other HBO shows. So that made me think, I was like, are they going to have a Sopranos world?
How about the Wire world, Sopranos world?
You said the Curb Your Enthusiasm world. That'd be depressing as shit.
I would love it. I thought it was
A bunch
fun.
of smart ass old dudes.
And that was the thing that really surprised me by some of the negative reviews was going back to what I said at the beginning. It's been a crazy week, and look, appears like it's going to be a crazy several months. And for 1 hour, I was lost in the show. I was having a blast. I laughed at a couple points. When there's the scene, and I think it's going to be the thumbnail for this. When Maeve and Hector, they get out of the car and she realizes, he's a slave to his programming, and she just sort of realizes that, and she's going to, leave him. And she, it's just a sad moment. Like, it was a genuine sad moment, but that sadness was built because of us having seen the previous 2 seasons. So this was like an episode really built for the fans who've been following the show since the beginning. That's what it felt like. It really felt like sort of a best of, showing you all the things you love about the show. Lots of references and nods to past episodes in the past seasons.
Well, and I think too that builds Maeve's character, because she is kind of like that all-knowing being. It took her a second. She was like, oh shit, this isn't real. But it only took her a moment. And then when she saw Hector, and then she saw, Lee, she saw all these people,
which I loved.
But see, my question is we saw when Bernard and Ashley Stubbs were walking around down in the basically deserted body area.
Yeah.
That we saw Hector was down there. We saw Maeve. We saw a couple other people. So we didn't see Lee though. So because he was a human, he wasn't, a person prior to that. Or was he? I don't know.
Well, shit. The way this show works. I mean, go ahead.
No, but what I was saying is Hector's, all the people that they programmed basically to be in Maeve's little ball thingy that she was getting robbed when she was robbing it back or whatever.
I'll just call it the Matrix, basically.
Yeah. It is. But were they all connected to that same thing? Or do they basically program each individual thing to what they want so that they can kind of trick them into being complacent? You know what I'm saying? Like, so
I know exactly. Yeah.
I mean, or in each other's.
It's tough to say. Because there were multiple, I don't know what you call them, but they're brain cores. We saw multiple of them plugged into that machine. So what exactly was Hector's plugged into that machine? Or was Hector just an AI that they created to mimic the original? We pretty sure that Lee was literally just a program that was built to be as close to him as possible. We assume now, the way this show is, that might not be the case, but that's my assumption.
Well, just like she said, though,
Going back.
they're trying to get information from her.
Yes.
So them programming all these things, they were trying to get Lee to basically trick her into giving some information that she didn't really even have yet, but she will have it shortly, but now she knows what they're looking for.
What's interesting, it appears that all the chaos caused in the first episode, they assumed it was Maeve that had done it. They didn't know about Dolores. And skipping it, we'll backtrack just slightly, going back to Lee Sizemore, the character, being reintroduced yet again. That was I loved the dynamic between him and Maeve. It was fun. It was so fun, in fact, that I could see rewatching this episode later this week. It was just a fun episode. I loved
got a whole lot going on. I'll probably watch it at least one more time.
It was great. I loved her figuring out and then slowly explaining to him what was going on, and then figuring out how to tax the system to basically break the program, break the matrix, if you will. All of that was a blast, and yeah, I love the whole tricking the Nazis and getting them all, to kill each other.
Yeah, the notes in everybody's pocket. That was funny.
Yeah, really cool. Another amazing sequence. So Bernard is basically trying to figure out. He's trying to find Maeve too, because Bernard is, at least he believes, and I think there's going to be a twist in this. But Bernard basically knows that he has to stop Dolores from, destroying the world or whatever it is she's trying to do. And on his journey to get Maeve, he finds Stubbs. And I love their dynamic, and I'm extremely excited to see where that storyline goes. The fact that they're sort of this duo now.
They said in the after credits thing that they wanted them to kind of add levity to the seriousness of the whole series, because it's so, dark, and it's kind of, twisted, trying to figure shit out. And they were just like, we wanted something to add a little bit of levity to it, make people laugh a little bit, so that way it's not all grim the entire time. But I thought it was kind of cool that they did acknowledge what you just said. They were trying to, good cop, bad cop it, and they were trying to add a little bit of, humor.
It's funny, yeah, not having seen that in that behind the scenes thing, but that's exactly what I got from it, And,
yeah.
And just the scene when I almost stood up and clapped, like, the guards are coming and he goes and grabs an axe. Stubbs grabs an axe, and I was just like, yes. Like, that's what I mean. This episode was fun, and I don't know. I'm really shocked that the reviews are so mixed. And it's interesting because I'm finding, like I said, literally reviews were either 5 out of 5 perfect, or 5 out of 10 we hate it. So yeah, for whatever reason, some people are just not enjoying it, and then some are. But yeah, I love that scene. I love that whole sequence.
Well, because I thought I saw him like swing it to where it was like broadsided and smack one of them on the ass as they were running away. Like he just kind of he hit a couple of them and then was like, because he didn't want to kill them.
Yeah,
which I thought was funny too.
We how did you feel about? I'll just go through some of the complaints, some of the bitching from some people. Starting to get more irritated by it the further we get into this, because how much I enjoyed the episode. But one of the complaints was that basically the first episode of the season was so different, and that was what they were happy about. They were happy that it was sort of going in a different direction. And then this episode was literally like I don't want to use the word retread, but basically like I said earlier, a best of, going back to what the show, same locations we've seen before, story beats we've seen before. Do you think this episode was necessary, or they could have got to where they're going without having done what they did?
Well, here's my take on what you said the complaints were, because I didn't read any of them. But I think of shows like Friends or even How I Met Your Mother. They're filmed in New York. They're about New York. There's a lot of nuances about New York. So what happens if that show travels to San Francisco or LA? It changes the entire dynamic of the show. So them going back to what their New York, why would I be mad about that? Like that to me is them expanding a little bit. That's good. That helps, add to the story. It adds another, another dynamic to the story. But to me, this is what the story is about, the different little worlds. It's not about the real world. You have to include it eventually, but to me, that's not what the story is about. The story is about Westworld and all these different worlds that they created, on this island, which it looks like it's some island off the coast of China somewhere. And
Yeah.
it's just a giant island that they created. But to me, them going back to Westworld was important. I think it was needed,
I
actually.
agree. Larry, who might be joining us next week on here, since we're, like I said, we're all in our different locations in our homes. But Larry might be joining us next week. I talked to him about last week's episode, and he did point out he had an interesting thought. He's like, if it doesn't involve Westworld, can you call it Westworld? And I was like, it's a good point. And we were thinking of, there are shows that have come out that have changed. I'll give an example. There were Babylon 5. You had the series Babylon 5 for years. But then they did a spin-off, Crusade, which wasn't on Babylon 5. Therefore, you didn't call it Babylon 5. Or you had Battlestar Galactica. And then you had the Caprica show. You can't call it Battlestar Galactica, even if it's the same show, but it's a, different story. So the fact that they went back and showed that, no, this is important, I think was necessary.
Well, like I was saying about the whole New York thing, like it's vital to the story.
Yeah.
You can't just abandon it because it's, like you said, calling it Westworld, but it's very important to the story. And not only is it important to the story, there's still a lot of unresolved things as far as the worlds go. So for them traveling to our real world, yeah, that's, important too. But to me, I don't know, the story takes place in Westworld.
Yeah.
Or wherever the hub is or whatever. I don't
know. I don't remember if I said it at the front of the show. I don't think I did. We did, in fact, record an episode last week for the first episode, and I had some technical difficulties, so it didn't get up. I think I figured them out. I think it's one of my wires is messed up, but basically, that's why the episode didn't go up. But we did record it. But I wanted to bring up some of a really cool point you made in that episode, and you were saying that you believe Dolores is going to take the relationship she built with Caleb and possibly use that app that he was using, and essentially she'll command an army of criminals, put them on tasks, and they won't really realize what they're doing. That that it serves a bigger purpose. It was something you had said, and I didn't even think of, and I thought it was really cool.
Well, because the app, what was it, Rico? I think was the name of the app.
Yes.
But the app itself, Caleb said that he wouldn't do any of the personal things. So he wouldn't do murder, rape, kill, kidnap or any of those things. But those things are all on that app. So I think because Dolores, very similarly to Maeve, has the use of being able to kind of hack into technology like she did at the house at the very beginning when she murdered that guy. She was, she hacked his computer, hacked his alarm, hacked all that stuff. So I think if she's able to hack that app, she can start basically putting hits on people who she wants to take out for her agenda without ever, people ever even knowing that it's her. Yeah. And on top of that, she got, what was it, 10 million or something from that guy?
She had taken us a bunch of money. Yeah.
So why would she? What does she need that money for? And I think that that's what she's going to use it for, is for that Rico app, and start paying people to
And she
take out.
killed the head security guy for that one guy and replaced him
Yep.
with a fake person.
Tips.
So yeah, yeah. um, episode ended with Maeve waking up in the real world and being confronted by
Uh,
Sarek. We think, we
I don't think
assume,
it's the real world.
may not be, but the show is leading us to believe it's the real world, and she's basically told, "I need you to kill Dolores."
To me, it
And
looked a lot like I don't know, the Aladdin world or wherever it was, where they were hunting
it,
elephants and shit.
it was a really cool, yeah. Wherever that
The
location
Explorer world.
was really neat. That building, that whole structure, it was like a jungle in a building. Like it was the best way to describe it. Really cool. Um, I think the biggest question after seeing these two episodes, is there a definitive good guy and bad guy, or is everybody in a little bit of gray? Is Sarek a good guy? Does he really want to help the world, or is there ulterior motives? Dolores's revolution, is there justice in it? Maeve, what does Maeve really want in the end? I think she wants to be in the forge with all those hosts that she, protected at the end of last season. She wants to be with her daughter.
Yes.
Um,
I
so
think,
yeah, who's good, who's bad? Is anyone good or is anyone bad? Caleb too.
well, I think that goes back to one of the reasons I like this show is, Game of Thrones is very fantasy. This is very sci-fi. However, I think all humans operate in a little bit of a gray area, because regardless of how good or how noble you think somebody is, it's not necessarily that they have an agenda, but they're doing it for a reason. It doesn't matter what that reason is, but they're doing it for a reason. And same thing with somebody who's evil, or somebody who's, screwed up in the head. Or you look at, I mean, I equate it to some real life people and some, but look at like Stalin, Hitler, or even fake people like Voldemort. Like, all these people are very evil, but they had an agenda. Their agenda just didn't line up with what our norm was. So, this being sci-fi, I don't know what the norm is. So I can't really tell you who the good guy and the bad guy is. Everybody's kind of operating on their own agenda and trying to figure out what it is, how the best way to get what they want to happen.
Yeah, yeah. There's only 8 episodes this season. We're down 2, which means there's only 6 left. Do you think the ratings for the first episode were really bad compared to last season? There's some theories as to why. Obviously, certain events taking place in the world today, and there was last Sunday. There was a debate, Democratic debate going, which did get decent ratings. So, do you think this is the last season? If the ratings continue to be not where they were, I don't see them renewing it. I think it's an expensive show to produce. The question for me isn't so much of am I are they going to end it? Does this season end in a way in which it's okay to end? That's my biggest concern.
I
Do you
don't know.
think they can wrap this up in 6 episodes?
I don't. I think that they could. I don't think that they have. So,
Hmm.
like, if they, halfway through the season are like, "Hey, this is costing too much," it's going to be like a Rome or one of those other shows where you're like, "Ah, shit," or Deadwood, even, until they came back with the movie 20
Yeah.
years later. Like, it'll be something like that, because I think that each season ended on a cliffhanger, but it still could have kind of standed alone. You were just like, "Oh shit, this is crazy." But with the character development that they've had now, introducing Caleb, like, there's a couple things that I feel like it would have ended like Game of Thrones did, when D&D just rushed through it because they had a Star Wars project that they are no longer on because they tanked, you know. Game of Thrones, but I think that it it would hurt the series should they find out halfway through that they're not getting another season. I think that it would feel rushed. It would, because I think that Nolan would do some reshoots and add some stuff to make it at least make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want that.
Yeah. I really hope that. I hope there's closure. I do not want this to be another Rome situation where the show just ends and there's not a ending. I would be very upset if that happened. If this is the final season, so be it. But like, I just hope there's an ending. So much so, if HBO told them, you know what, guys, we just cannot do another season, I would hope that they at least be like, well, can we get 2-hour special,
We get
or
two more episodes or something.
Exactly. I would really be disappointed if this series didn't get a definitive ending.
I think that it probably will, and only because, just like the Dark Knight trilogy, Christopher Nolan, not Jonathan, but Christopher Nolan said that, hey, I didn't want to do another one. I left it open to where there could be more, and it makes sense for there to be more, but there's not more. Like,
yeah.
I still tied up the story. So I think that Jonathan's very similar, probably mindset, because their styles are this, like, they're very similar.
Yeah.
But I think that he probably came to HBO when he had the Westworld idea and said, hey, I have, a 5-season arc that could be told in this many episodes. I think that he's a very big planner, and he probably told them ahead of time what he wanted to do. So I think when they signed on for this, that they probably had an idea of how long it was going to be. Now, if the ratings super suck and they're just like, man, we can't keep affording to do this, then they'll probably pull it. But like you said, I think there's a lot of extra things going on in the world right now. And actually, I think since everybody's on old quarantine and lockdown, ratings for all shows are going to go up. Right?
Yeah. And I haven't had the time to check, but I would hope that even though the ratings were bad at the premiere, that people have gone back and watched the episode over the course of the week. I don't know. I haven't looked at the numbers for that, but I would hope that's the case. Anyone listening who doesn't, well, I doubt anybody's listening who doesn't watch the show, but if you are, and you've not watched it, just go back and check it out. Especially if you have HBO. Hell, if you're sitting at home, what else are you gonna do? So yeah. Like I said, for me personally, I'd give this episode a 9 out of 10. I absolutely loved it. Any last words or anything you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
No, not really. My dog ran out the front door and I had to chase her like halfway through the episode. That pissed me off pretty bad.
How long did it take you to get her back?
Like 15 minutes. And I ran out barefoot. It just rained, so the grass is soaking. I was so mad.
It was funny because he sent me a text because it had been almost 30 minutes since the episode had ended, and so I sent him a text to be like, "Hey, whenever you're ready, just let me know." And he texted me back about his dog, which worked out because it gives me time to get the music and the make the thumbnail, do all that stuff. But yeah, that was funny.
I was so pissed.
So yeah, everybody, it's PulpMythos. If you're new, we're going to be covering the show all week. As I said, Larry, who's used to be on the show a lot, he actually moved away from us, but we'll be able to do this. We're using Skype basically to record the show for now.
You should just keep plugging Skype and see if Microsoft gives us some money.
That'd be awesome. We'll see how this sounds. If it sounds like shit, then I'll be like, well, hopefully it sounds good. So yeah, this is going to be the format of the show for a while at least. And if this goes well, I think Sunday nights might just be a PulpMythos podcast. I don't know. We'll see where this goes. But yeah, more content is coming to the channel. I'm going to re-upload some of the old content that I took down and yeah, go ahead, subscribe, hit the bell, do all that stuff. Put us on Twitter. Let everyone know we exist. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Anything else before we go?
No.
All right.
Enjoy my 2 weeks off or however long it is. I'm sitting at home watching TV.
6 months.
I'll do it. I'm down.
All right. See
I'll
you.
either gain 50 pounds or be jacked as shit.
I was about to say, man, treat it like prison, man. Hit the push ups. All right. See y'all next week.